We start with news just in. The South African Health Products Regulatory Authority has approved the use of the Sinovac Covid-19 vaccine. However, under certain conditions. The approval is under Section 21 of the Medicines and Related Substance Act. Individuals between the ages of 18 and 59 years can use the vaccine. There are 2 doses that are administered 14 to 28 days apart. One of the conditions is that Sinovac must submit final results of ongoing clinical studies. It also needs to submit periodic safety updates. The Sinovac vaccine has a provisional shelf life of 24 months. Let's get more information on the Sinovac approval now. Joining us is Virologist and Clinical Research Specialist Dr. Sanet Aspinall and Numolux Group Chief Operating Officer Anton Arendse. Thank you very much for your time. Now, first of all, this is obviously positive news for our country. The more the merrier in terms of vaccines.
Absolutely, and good morning to you. As you'd indicated in your introduction, the South Africa's vaccine rollout program has fallen way behind schedule. So at this point, really, it's about soliciting whatever support we can provide, on the part of the private sector in supporting government, in providing vaccines. So it's not about Sinovac. It's about bringing vaccines to South Africa and making it available to the people of South Africa.
Now, how much do we know, Dr. Aspinall, about the efficacy of this vaccine, especially in terms of the Delta variant that has now caused the 3rd wave here in South Africa?
Yeah, thank you very much for having us this morning on ENCA. Vaccine efficacy in clinical trials with Sinovac have been shown to be 100% effective against COVID-19 hospitalizations and death, and this has been proven in 3 different clinical trials. The efficacy against mild and symptomatic infection ranged from 51% to 93%, and that depends on the population that has been studied. For example, in Brazil, it's been done in health care workers, which are a high-risk population. The design of the clinical trial, how the clinical trial has been designed, and also the different variants circulating in the country at that time. So the safety profile is very good of this vaccine, and in terms of the variants, we know about laboratory studies that have been conducted in China, and these in vitro neutralization tests have shown that CoronaVac is very effective in neutralizing the Delta variant as well as the Beta variant. And obviously more real-world studies need to be conducted to show the efficacy in real world when it's been rolled out.
Now, there's also concern about, earlier this week, SAHPRA announcing that it's actually reduced the time that it usually takes to approve a medical substance being used in our country from about 20 months to less than 3 months. Is this a good thing? Won't it mean that things are rushed?
No, I don't think so. We know that SAHPRA is an entity that looks at quality, safety and efficacy of products as well as vaccines, and also that SAHPRA is the entity that really looks at whether all the products fulfill the research and development requirements in terms of the preclinical studies as well as all the clinical studies. And we've had various interactions since the submission of CoronaVac in March up until the product has been approved, in terms of interacting with the applicant as well as with Numolux and Sinovac in terms of the safety profile, the quality profile and the efficacy profile. So once a vaccine is registered by SAHPRA, they really have done their job in terms of thoroughly looking at all of the processes in the research and development of a product.
Dr. Arendse, or Mr. Arendse, would you agree with the fact that this doesn't necessarily mean that we've missed some steps in making sure that this product is actually good for our country?
I mean, far be it for me to speak on behalf of SAHPRA and to offer a view, but I think it's sufficient to say that we find ourselves in very extraordinary circumstances, and it demands that all of us think outside of the box. All right. That being said, I think SAHPRA does need to be commended for having been rigorous in its approval process. And to that end, there had been some fairly robust discussions between the regulator and ourselves, as well as with Sinovac. I think at the end of the day, everyone is comfortable that we now have a product that we're able to bring to the South African market with confidence. As indicated in your introduction, there are specific conditions that still need to be met, i.e. clinical trials, etc. And perhaps in parenthesis, it may be useful to also indicate that we are in fact in the throes of making submission to SAHPRA to undertake pediatric trials of the Sinovac product in South Africa. So that will be happening sometime soon. But in short, I believe that we have, along with the regulator, the World Health Organization, and with Sinovac, we've gone through a fairly rigorous process to the point where we're able to submit Sinovac to South Africa with confidence.
Mm. And of course, looking at the fact that there are these rules and conditions around the approval of Sinovac, do any of you know the reasons why it's only going to be used in certain age groups, etc.?
Yeah, so I think I can answer this. With any vaccine, you do clinical trials in particular populations. And Sinovac has been approved just for the over 18-year-old age group, and therefore it's not approved for children as well as for your younger children. Those studies still need to be conducted and need to be submitted to the regulator. Also, the WHO has also approved and provided authorization for Sinovac in many countries, as well as, on their website for the rollout in adults only.
Mm. And, the fact that we need all these vaccines coming into our country, like I said earlier on, the more the merrier in terms of the vaccines that are needed here. Do you know what positive it is in terms of getting more vaccines to the country? We know that there was the Chinese one and then there was the Russian one. So how about Sputnik? Do we know anything about Sputnik and it coming here?
Yeah, look, we aren't too familiar with the Sputnik vaccine.
There you go. Sorry, Dr. Arendse, Mr. Arendse. I was just trying to make sure that you guys don't speak over each other, but you can continue.
All right, yeah. So we are aware that there has been a local applicant which has made representations on behalf of Sputnik, and they would be better placed to talk to the vaccine. I think one should not also forget that there is another significant Chinese player, i.e. Sinopharm, who have also received WHO approval. And we're also aware that a local applicant has made submissions to SAHPRA in order to get emergency use approval for Sinopharm. And correct, as you've indicated, we do need to get as many vaccines into the country as possible. And so we actually believe and fairly confident that the process that's been followed with Sinovac, a very similar process could be followed with Sinopharm in bringing their vaccine into the country and making it approved and getting it approved by SAHPRA in the very near future. Thank you.
Dr. Aspinall, I just want to end with you, perhaps, just to talk about generally vaccine hesitancy here in the country. We're seeing more age groups being allowed to come get the vaccine, and it's attributed to perhaps the older, over 60s that were supposed to be first, not going there in their large numbers, and people not understanding that once you are vaccinated, it doesn't necessarily mean that you won't get COVID.
Yeah. That is absolutely correct. No vaccine, whether it's the Pfizer vaccine or the J&J vaccine or Sinovac or Sinopharm or any of the other vaccines that are currently being submitted or have been approved in this country, is 100% effective. What it does actually mean is that when you get vaccinated, you have a better chance of not ending up in hospital and be admitted to ICU and being put onto a ventilator. And that, I think, is the message for everyone in terms of vaccine hesitancy. The best vaccine now is the vaccine in people's arms, and people should be vaccinated to avoid hospitalization and death. We've seen the statistics around the new infections, about deaths and about excess deaths, which are being published by the MRC. And that just shows us how many people are currently ending up in hospitals and are dying. And I think that is what we need to do, is to get people to get vaccinated. And the best vaccine is a vaccine in people's arms.
All right, let me thank you very much for your time and your insight with those news just in about SAHPRA approving the use of the vaccine under certain conditions. Of course, that was Dr. Sanet Aspinall and Numolux Group Chief Operating Officer Anton Arendse.